Hello and welcome to Lex Talk Design, and today we are talking to photographer Dee Van Der Merwe. Dee began her photography career over 16 years ago. She's based in Brisbane and she has worked all around the world, from Iceland to London to New York City, where she shot branding campaigns, events and weddings. Dee's company, Pixel Punk, specialises in working with clients to create the best connection to frame a space where the best work is captured and it feels as genuine as it looks. Thank you for joining us today, Dee.
Thank you for having me.
So I understand you're up in Brisbane?
Yes.
How's life in Brisbane right now?
Very hot. Very hot and stormy, actually, but super busy in the lead up to Christmas. It just like accelerates to no end. Last Wednesday, I shot for the council. I had to shoot 15 businesses between 8 a.m. and 4 p.m., like one after the other. And then I did 2 events after that. So that was just Wednesday. Tomorrow it's turning out to be the same. I've got another job for the council. They're basically photographing precincts. So the photos that I take are actually for the businesses to use. So they sign up to this little thing that the council is doing. It's really nice. But like 1 minute I'm shooting a butcher, the next minute I'm shooting a hairdresser, in this precinct. So it's great. Lots of fun.
Is there a common thread when you're shooting people, especially like in a portraiture setting, where they all say the same thing and or they all come at a different angle?
I could probably count on my hand the amount of people that go, oh, yes, I love having my photo taken, in 16 years, like especially boys. Boys hate having their photo taken. So most people just feel, really self-conscious. I don't, look very good, or I didn't know about the photo shoot, my hair. And I just try and make them feel as comfortable as possible, completely resonate. I hate being in a photo myself, so I know the feeling. And also, as I go, I show them how they look on camera. So I'll show them what their photos are looking like. And the minute they see that, actually, I don't look that bad, the photos, they feel more relaxed, and then the photos just get better as well. So, I feel like being empathetic to that, I really hate being on camera, helps a lot. So
yeah, totally. Because when you hear models talking, like you're watching Project Runway or something, and then when the models pull their looks, and it looks so great, and then when you try and pull it, it looks moronic. But then sometimes it photographs better than it feels. It's a really great area.
Yes. Most photo shoots for normal humans, it feels really awkward. You feel like everybody's looking at you, but when you look at the pictures, it doesn't translate the same way. And working with humans and then working with models is also different, because models are just so used to like that you're like, whoa, you need to just slow down. Let me just take a couple of photos like that and a couple of photos like this, instead of you just banging through all your faces that you've got, So I once photographed a wedding of a model, and the whole wedding had to be like flipped around to the side of her face that was good, and when you look at her, I'm like, oh, you're beautiful. Like, how can you have but she genuinely did have a good side and a not so good side. So normally it's like the bride and groom, but we flipped the wedding so that her good side was facing the people. So yeah, just people's things. Hey, like we all have something. Some people just really hate being in front of the camera. Most people hate it.
Yeah, and you only have such a limited time to create that rapport and put them at ease. Is that because you've got to have this, like photography, full disclosure, many years ago, last millennia, I studied photography. It was the first thing I studied outside of like when I finished year 12. I studied, I studied black and white film photography.
Amazing.
And, yeah, so cool. Really, really cool. But what terrified me was you have to be artistic, tech-minded, and then you've got to, especially if you're dealing with humans, you've got to like build that rapport in 25 seconds or less.
Yes, that's right.
That is a skill.
Yeah, I know. It's like people buy cameras and they're like, I'm going to be a photographer now, and it really is much more than the camera. I did a little post on my Instagram a few months ago, and I'm like, these are the top 5 things that people say to me as a photographer. Most of it's like, oh, can you please Photoshop my chin out? Can you please do this? Can you please? But the number one thing is like, they look at the photos on the camera and they're like, wow, that's an amazing camera. And I'm like, the camera cannot take photos by itself, like, but yes, people skills imperative in any setting, I think. I feel a little bit lucky, even though my voice, I'm not a fan of it. I sound like I'm 12 most of the time. I answer my own mobile phone and people ask if they can speak to my parents, even today. But I think it really takes the edge off with people, this like the voice. Also, I just, I'm always happy to crack a joke, and I'm just honestly the shiniest dork you've ever seen at the best of times. I love sequins and sparkly things, and being a dork is what I'm great at.
Yeah, that's so cool. And I think that helps as well creatively with setting up the shoot because you can have a vision of how you want it to look, but you've got to have like the chutzpah or the guts or the gusto or the being able to persuade everyone else it's a good idea, like with
Yes.
the shoot of getting someone to hang upside down or
Yes,
whatever
yes,
it
yes,
is.
yes. Yeah, I'm trying to think of any like weird and wonderful things that just like where I had to be like, just trust me, it will look good. I think a lot of the time, I think most of my job is actually like that, but you're just so used to it that then you show people the photos and then they're like, oh yeah, okay, I see what that is. It would happen a lot on location scouts for weddings where I would go past a field and a tree and people just be like, oh, that's just a field and a tree. And I'd be like, no, but you don't understand. It will look amazing in the right light, And then people also like book their weddings on like botanical gardens. Sounds like a great idea, and I'm sure it is in some aspects, but I find it boring as bat poo. Like it's just manicured lawn and some flowers, like let's break some boundaries. Let's go do something fun.
Yeah, I
So
love that collaborative spirit. That's so fun. And we do that like with our clients, as like the ones I know well, is I open with don't say no. It's just an idea.
love
Don't
that.
say no. Don't say
Yes,
no.
love
Because
that.
I know I can feel it on their tongue.
Yes, I love that. I love it. I did a wedding styled shoot with a friend of mine who has a styling company, and I was at the Florence and the Machine concert. Love Florence, and the song "Cosmic Love" came on, and I was like, "Oh, I need to do a photo shoot with a big moon and like just." I think wedding styled shoots are great because it shows people how far you can push the boundaries. So we did this photo shoot. My husband built me a moon. It used to be in my office. I would show it to you, but it's this like almost 6 foot half moon that you can sit on. It's beautiful. And the photos are just amazing. Nighttime photo shoot. It was just and that's pushing the boundaries because at that point in time everyone liked that like antique vintage look, and I'm like, oh no, there's just so much more ground to grab than this vintage old suitcase grass country vibe.
Yeah, for sure. And that's what I wanted to ask you about is what do you find drives the trends with like, especially with portraiture events, human photo
Yes,
shoots?
I definitely would say social media is a massive trend setter. People just want to do what everyone else is kind of doing, and then you'll get the odd like rebel that will push it in another direction. I think back in the day it was Pinterest and now it's Instagram and TikTok. There's a photographer that I follow in the US, and he is just an absolute creative genius. He has a sponsorship or a deal with maybe Sony, and over a period of time, he has generated images using AI, as in like just like backdrop images. And what he's done with Sony is he has got these, I think he's got big LED screens, and he projects these images that he's created onto the LED screens. And then he's got a studio with the lights just going off. And he does these like 60-second photo shoots where in 60 seconds he can bang off 100, 200, however many frames. And because it's LED, the backdrop is changing all the time, the lighting is changing all the time. So in that 60 seconds, you can get 30, 40, 50, 60 different photos. It's mind blowing. And I just love that. So I partnered up with a friend who owns an LED company and I tried to do it myself. And honestly, that guy in America is a genius. And he just keeps pushing the boundaries. Every time it's something new, I just look at him and I'm like, wow, you are amazing that you can even think about concepts like this, you know? So I did try the LED thing and I would love to do it again. I also think when it's something new like that, like people are just a bit like, what do you mean? Like, how do you, they haven't quite caught up yet. Some people are just so far advanced creatively that other people are like lagging behind, just the general people.
Yeah, totally. And I think as
Yeah.
well, like sometimes you don't even realize that you're in a trend until you're well out of
Yes,
the
that's right.
trend.
Yeah, that's right.
Uh,
That's like, do you
mm.
find that in design? Like, you'll be like, this works with this. And people are like, ugh. And then in 6 months' time, they're like, this works with this. And you're like, I told you that 6 months ago.
All the time, all the time. And it's hard as well because we do retail interiors, so we are trend dependent, but also it's not prudent to be trend dependent because, if a brand's color is purple and red's in fashion, it's never going to happen. Like you
Yes,
just, it's
yes.
commercial product. So there's that. And then also, though, when you do follow trends, exactly the same in events and wedding photography and portraiture, is you homogenize the brand with every other brand that's a competitor,
Yes,
which is
that's
good if
right.
you're a latch on brand or a copycat brand, fair enough. But if you're
Yeah.
trying to make, new, like you're trying to stand out, it's like trends are an absolute bugger. But also the hard thing is, and I think this might be a bit different with photography, but certainly with construction design, interior design is we're beholden to materials and importers. So whatever, like if we're designing a store for a particular region, like an Australian store or a Chinese store, particularly Australia, we have a very limited amount of materials here. So whatever's in trend is what you're going to, right now brass is in trend and every tap is made of brass. So, you can, in the words of Henry Ford, you can have any color you want as long as it's brass.
Yeah, gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I think in terms of trends, working with humans for their events and then working with brands is different. So humans for their events, everyone's looking at the internet and I saw this on Instagram and I want this and I want this on Pinterest and this and I'm just like, just be true to yourself, like because at the end of the day, what if you didn't even really like that thing? Why, don't do it if that's not actually who you are and it doesn't represent you. I think weddings makes you ADD in terms of photography. Your scene is changing all the time, and brands can almost do the same thing. Because one minute I'm doing this with this brand and this with this brand, just like that photo shoot last week. A butcher now, and then a hairdresser, and then a shoe shop, and it's like, okay, I've got to change hats all the time. One of the brands that I work with very much is Mini. I feel very lucky to work with Mini. Shout out to all my Motorline people. I resonate with that brand because that's actually my favorite car. It's easy for me to make content for them, and they're such a fun brand that like we can just bang out videos and photos and make them fun and funny and it's okay. And then I go to the BMW side of the showroom and it's much more like strict and like I have to hold myself back. Okay, I've got to be, so yeah, there's many hats when you're having to create. Hey, you would know in your commercial space, like just all the different brands and all the different vibes.
Oh, 100%. And that's, I think, where we really cross over design wise is you can, like, I think, especially, and I was going to ask you about, ascending into a photography career for people that
Yes.
want to. But, like, so I think when you're starting out, especially photography, but even interior design as well, is that you think your creativity is the mood board, the design direction, and the color palette. And that's your signature, when really your signature can be being prompt, being punctual, being polite, being
Yes.
reliable, being out of the box thinking,
Yes.
being creative, over delivering, or whatever, your high res, whatever it
Yep.
is.
Yep.
And like, high res metaphorically, emotionally, spiritually, but
Yep.
there's different ways. And that's like letting that come through with the signature. But I also, and so we'll circle back to graduates, but I'm glad you brought up Mini and BMW, because I was watching, there's this great clip you've got on your Insta that really shows the bit that no one talks about with photography, which is the physicality. So to paint the scene, you're riding in the passenger seat, shooting on a BMW driving day. And I know, because I have been there, I've done, my husband on and off has race cars, and I have been the passenger, I've been the driver. Much better being the driver for puking. But I know when I see you go green, I know exactly where you're at. And I see you do that reset, like get it together, where is the horizon, hold it, and your head wants to come off because, as you know, the heat is intense. Goss me, the physicality.
Yes, it is hard. That particular shoot was nuts because I was in a race car on a windy track, and I was sitting in the back, having to obviously strap myself in because the guy's racing around these corners, and I'm shooting out the back window, but I can't turn around, So I'm shooting out the back window, so my camera's facing that way, and I've got the screen out so I'm looking sideways, the car's going this way around corners, and I can see what's happening out the back window. Man, I was really... another one of my clients makes epic playgrounds, like huge playgrounds. And part of my job is to run around like preschoolers to like preteens on these huge playgrounds. I think I've played on playgrounds more as an adult than as a child, just because of the things that they get me to do. I had to even go to this massive playground in New Zealand where they built this thing. Honestly, it must be at least 3 stories high, down slides, climbing things, and oh my gosh, they have a really cool playground in Rockhampton that we went to, and one of the objects that they made, that have like these 2 towers with a needle between, and you go from one side to the other. There's nothing to hold on to, just like a stick. There's no cage or anything. I could not do it, man. I was photographing the kids, but I was the grown-up just kicks in like, no, I'm gonna die, So this weekend they opened a playground at the Gold Coast, a massive one. So I was down the slide, and it's great. So much fun.
I love it. No 2 days the same.
Never. No, never ever. Except in the editing side of things. That's very tiring, editing.
Yeah.
I actually use AI to help me now. It culls and has learned how I edit. It's not perfect, but honestly, just the pressure of having to cull taken off me is massive. I get back many hours just with that. It's not cheap, but it's just something that we have to do if we're going to keep, at pace with work. So, and I like having a speedy turnaround as well for the client. So just, you've got to do what you've got to do.
Yeah, 100%. When you are the client, you're like, cool, can I have them now? What about
Absolutely.
now? Can I have them now?
Absolutely. All the time.
What about now?
Yep. And some, like last Wednesday when I shot for the council, it was 7,000 photos. So to go through 7,000 photos before I invested in this culling software, as I was shooting an event, the more the number grew on my shutter count, the more I could feel the stress building in my shoulders. Like, I guess that would be in your world, maybe like the budget getting smaller and smaller. Is that the same kind of feeling?
Definitely that, but also as you're speaking to me, it equates to when we're in a meeting and it's like page 1 of notes, page 2 of notes, like with the bullet points of all the edits, the edits. You know, page 5, page 6, and you're like, there's so many edits, and because it's a fluent conversation, things are changing on the fly, and you're like, hang on, all those edits are now redundant because we've decided to can that, and it's very matrix. You're like trying to stitch it all together.
What was it again? Yeah.
Totally. We're doing a bakery or a shoe shop. I'm confused.
That's right.
I'm happy with both. Shoes in the shape of loaves in the shape of shoes. No.
Loaves in the shape of shoes. Yes. Shoes in the shape of loaves. No.
Yeah, and that happens.
Yes, indeed.
But circling way back, what advice would you have for anyone, graduates and or any age, that are beginning or want to begin their careers in photography, in commercial photography?
Just do it. Go for it. Like, you have nothing to lose. You have everything to gain. I think that this is the best job in the world. For me, I could not picture doing a different job. I also don't know what my friends do in terms of like they work in an office. I just picture people walking from the photocopier to their computer and then back to the photocopier again. I don't even like, it's been that long that since I've had an office job, and I did at one point have an office job for a long time. Yeah, so just do it, and honestly, do as much as you can for your clients. I started out, I was the worst photographer. In school, I volunteered to take photos for the school, and I don't know how they let me run around with the camera. It was terrible back in the film days. So the film came back and it was like, oh. Anyway, they let me. My art teacher still said to me, you know, on my card at the end of school, she was like, good luck with the photography. I don't know how. I only saw that recently when I was digging through all my like grade 12 stuff. And when I immigrated to Australia from South Africa, I worked at a school and I was the youngest in the office. So they handed the camera to me and they said, when we want you to take a photo, you're just going to run. And I was like, okay, and I really loved it. Like, I asked them if I could borrow the camera, take it home and play with it so I could get better at it. It wasn't even the same brand that I use now, but I just really loved the creativity of it. At school, I made money painting and selling my paintings to teachers and students. I painted nudes and sold them to teachers. It was great. Yeah, so once I played with the camera as an adult, I think the cameras must have just got better because I don't know if it wasn't me. It was must be the camera. I don't know. Great camera. And I asked my husband, can I buy a camera and see if I can just make some money with it? You know, I went to a local photographer that I knew, a really amazing wedding photographer, and I was like, please, can you teach me? And she said no, and it broke my heart. But I realize now weddings are not a place to teach someone a skill. I understand. And in the end, after many years, I actually ended up photographing her wedding. So
Oh, no
that was a big,
way.
I never thought that that would happen. You know, if you
That's
told me when I
great.
asked her and said,
Yes.
I would never have thought that like I would be shooting her wedding, let alone, you know, like still be a photographer, and she doesn't do it anymore. My very first job as a photographer, uh, I still had my camera in a box. After my husband bought me this camera, I had my camera in a box. I was too precious to even take it out the box, you know. A friend of mine was getting married and she said to me, hey, Dee, I'm just gonna ask people to take photos at the wedding, collate what everyone has, and that's going to be my wedding photos. I can't find anyone that I like. And I was like, you cannot do that. Like, I will use my fancy new little camera. It wasn't fancy. And I will come and take photos of you all day. You have nothing to lose. Like, my photos cannot possibly be worse than people's photos that they take on their phone or their little, you know, cameras. And this was pre-iPhone days as well, so it wouldn't even have been great. And yeah, and that was my first wedding. And I had written out this piece of paper. I went on the internet, looked at wedding photos, and like, don't forget this kind of photo and this kind of photo and this kind of. And I walked around that list. I don't know how many weddings I did with that list. Hey, like, but then you just kind of know what to do. And yeah, so that first wedding I didn't get paid for. A couple of weddings I didn't get paid for. And then when people started asking me like, hey, can you, then I was like, well, okay, I might be able to make some money on this, you know. If I didn't actually just put myself out there and just go for it with nothing to lose and no expectation or pressure on myself, I would never have done it. You know, I am an overthinker, so please don't think that I'm not. Definitely an overthinker, and imposter syndrome has made raucous in my head. But sometimes you have to just decide, what do you want more? Do you want to be a photographer, or do you want to just wonder what it would be like to be a photographer? You have to want that thing more than the desire to, well, the desire to want that thing has to be more than the feeling of insecurity that you might feel at the time, you know?
Yeah, I agree. And I think with both of our industries, a good antidote to imposter syndrome is because imposter syndrome, I think, is you working against you with
Yes.
fictitious data and fictitious imagery, because you must be shocked at when you see, I know I am, both with photography and other people's work, is sometimes I'm like, really? That like
Yes.
that's your best shot, or that's your, oh, okay, I need to lighten the fuck up on myself. Like, I got
It's
this.
true. It's true. It's so true. There is a website called youarenotaphotographer.com. Mm. It is pretty funny. It is brutal, but and there are people that may want to be a photographer and they just maybe they don't have a skill. I don't know. Thank the Lord for like creativity. I love art and all of those things. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know how I would go. Not what the next step would be in terms of if I wasn't creative or I was. I guess you're either made for it or you're not. Maybe I
I
don't know.
think so. I think so. And I think as well, it's made for it or not, but and or because that's I think the first, that gets you through the door. But what keeps the door open, I think, is perpetual learning, perpetual open mind, perpetual curiosity, which is hard because once you get
Yes.
older and more experienced, it's very you can slide into that's not going to work because ABC,
Yes.
and that's not how. That's no, and it's not healthy. Well, it's not good for creativity. So it's this perpetual open mind, I
Yes.
think, is what
Yes.
it keeps it going. And I think that gets because you need to have confidence to have curiosity, which means you've got to count those wins and you have
Yes.
to. And that's why I
Yes.
think some cross comparison is good because otherwise that little monkey mind is just, you know,
Yes.
at
Yes.
you all the
Yes.
time.
Yes. I feel like you also need to have humility to keep going because if you are stubborn, you will never learn. You know, like you have to be humble and go, oh, actually, that wasn't great, or you know. And also, I feel like humility translates well with your clients as well. You know, like you can't come in with your ego and be like, no, this is how we're going to do it, because the client is the one that's paying the bill at the end of the day as well. So humility, confidence is excellent, but yeah, humility too. That to
Yeah,
keep learning.
I love that. That's so true. That humility, and that's what I think the humility lends to vulnerability, and because you have to be honest, because exact like you for me hit the nail on the head because sometimes the client suggests something and in my head I'm like that is never going to work and then we try it and it totally works. I'm like and just full, and I will say like full disclosure, I did not think it was going to work but we tried it and you're right. And so
Yeah.
it's lovely, like, and it really builds that rapport. But I think especially when you're younger as well, you do want to be the smartest person in the room because you just don't want to get kicked out of the room.
Maybe, I don't know. There are many rooms that I've been in and I still don't know how I got there. Like my favorite book is Oh, the Places You'll Go, just because I feel like how did I get here? Do you know what I mean? Sometimes, especially coming from South Africa, small town, like it wasn't, I didn't have this big, I didn't study photography. So imposter syndrome can definitely it's got a big horse, but I try and keep it at bay, you know, because it's also been a long time, and you work hard, and that eventually cycles into, oh, well, that's how you got here, you know.
And I wanted to ask you about that because you're based in Brisbane, you're from South Africa, and you've worked around the world. How do you see the Australian industry comparing to some of the overseas industries you've worked in?
I think the internet has made the globe much smaller, but in terms of weddings, I always have felt that the South African wedding industry and actually other places are much more advanced. I don't know how or why. We just their weddings just seem to be amazing, and in our little side of the globe, we kind of like are just a little bit behind. I don't know what it is, but I have noticed that weddings maybe a little bit, and it could just be people, like, you know, I don't know. I feel like I just see so many beautiful South African weddings. It could be a locality thing. I don't know. I don't know. This whole comment could get me in a lot of trouble with my
Oh,
wedding industry friends.
not at all.
Uh,
And I think it's great to have one eye on the horizon. Like we're always looking far and wide at who is doing what, especially
Yes.
because it's so easy just to look at, I talk about this a lot, but like with Pinterest, Instagram, social media, it's homogenized design.
Yes.
And whereas certain locales were famous for a signature look and feel, you can, the same store is rolled out everywhere and the same tiles or the same arch or the same curved walls are
Yeah.
in trend everywhere. And so
Yes.
I think it's lovely to pick up on the piquancy of what locales are doing what differently.
Yeah. Yeah. In terms of like branding, I have found now as a short form content creator that people want to just replicate TikToks and try and it's fun, but trying to do the original one is also more fun. That might get a bit of a viral thread on it, maybe. Who knows if you're lucky? But yeah, just repeat TikToks. Just
Yeah,
you
I
get that? You
think,
would get that
oh,
all the
yeah, we
time.
get that a lot. It's hard because we also have to, part of what we do is we've been, my husband has been in retail design for 25 years, and we know, especially with store design, like that store design will be there anywhere from 5 to 15 years. So it's got to have longevity.
Yeah,
So
yes,
you can definitely put in red hot trends, but also realize that what goes up must come down.
yes,
So you've
that's
got to kind of
right.
play a bit of a longer game with
Yeah,
commercial design. I mean, commercial design is definitely solid. Photography is like literally the speed of a shutter, like
yeah,
speed of
go.
light.
Yeah,
Literally, you are literally working with the speed of light.
yep, yep. I had to, one of the photo shoots I had to do last week was like the guy was like, I need it all really dark, really, and I was like thinking, oh, buddy, I need light to work. Like I literally, it's what makes the
Literally.
camera work. No light, no photo. So yes, you just do the best you can with what you have. I guess in weddings, it's such a good learning ground, and that's how I started weddings. So I do talk a lot about them, but it was my training ground. I had to work with so many different people. I had to work in every setting that you can imagine, in every type of weather that you can imagine. The wedding in Iceland was -6 degrees and raining. It was blisteringly cold. And I guess working in this humid climate, when you're going from the car to -6 degrees to a warm car, your camera can like fog over as well. So it's waiting for that to clear out, and it just elements, that you don't necessarily have in your everyday life.
Yeah, amazing. I never even thought about that. You are
Yeah,
really an on-the-fly director, producer at the
everything.
same time. Yeah.
Everything. You are looking at people, how they look, because they can't see themselves. I was shooting a couple once, and the lady, they were holding each other, but her hand was like this. And I was like, what is your hand doing? And then she was like, oh, she didn't even know. You're looking at hair and everything, background, like there's so many things all the time because I guess also for me, the more I fix in real time, the less I have to fix in post because nobody wants to be behind the computer. So yeah, it's constantly like observing everywhere. And sometimes you can fix that, all the things, and you don't even realize that there's something on the person's face. Like you shoot the whole. I had a wedding for a lovely Zimbabwean couple, and her skin tone was a bit fairer than his skin tone, and the whole day we did the wedding was amazing. And when I went to edit, I noticed that there was a patch of like foundation on his forehead that just looked like shine. No, didn't didn't see it the whole day.
Mm,
Working the whole day, didn't see this tiny patch of foundation.
yeah. That's a whole vibe is you see that and we're like it's a brutal learning and so I'm 47. So, like kind of grew up in the 90s. And in the 90s is when we discovered putting sunscreen in foundation and we used to wear really thick matte finish foundation.
Oh, the
And
white.
nobody warned us is with the flash, you would get this huge reflection. So everyone from the 90s has these white faces, red lips, skinny brows.
Eyebrows. Yep.
Remember?
Hmm.
Like it was just a brutal
Hmm.
time. And even now,
Hmm.
like when I'm watching TV, I can see when there's too much, like their contour has gotten,
Yes.
it's got a chemical in it that's not reacting well with
Uh,
the video.
There's the line, the too orange, the Oompa Loompa. There's lots of, no, it's not good. It's not good sometimes. People also have their like, on my wedding, I don't want to have too much makeup. I want to look like myself. I'm like, no, put the makeup on. You want to look amazing. You want to
You
look.
paint for the back.
So, like, seriously, there's not very many times that you get to do this. Go all out on your, on your face, but be yourself.
Hyper. It's like you're
Yes.
being a hyper you. That was my remit for
The
my wedding makeup. It's like
4K
like
version of yourself. Yeah.
exactly high definition, everything to the power of. What I want to also to know is, where are you drawing your inspiration from?
Yeah.
And if it's all and sundry, which I imagine it is, that's my
Yeah,
hunch,
it
is how
is.
do you feel it's inspiration? What does it feel like when you're inspired?
Sometimes, before I did that very first wedding, I didn't I mean, I was painting, and that's fine, like painting from magazines or whatever, find in South Africa there's a magazine called SL magazine, and it's kind of like GQ but not so. And anyway, because I painted nudes, so it was a little bit, like GQ meets Rolling Stone. That's the kind of magazine it was. When I photographed my first wedding, honestly, the minute I put my camera down, it was like everything I saw in frame. And even today, I can see things just in frame, nature, not as much. Yes, like beautiful sunsets, the sky, definitely amazing. But even music, oh my gosh, music is I mean, like I said, I was at the Florence and the Machine concert, and I was like, I don't know, I'm sure you have. On Instagram, there is an artist that makes like so many of the viral TikToks and Instagram posts have his music. He's called I Saint James. I Saint James. He's excellent. After doing listening to seeing when I have to make copy other TikToks or Instagrams, I have to use the same music, right? So anyway, I really liked his music, so I went and actually listened to his albums. Amazing. It's like I hear the music and then I can think, oh, I would make a video like this, and this. So music is a big one for me. Obviously, looking at other people's work is always inspiring. Some people, like I said, that photographer in America is amazing. He just is next level on everything. And yeah, just everyday life, I guess. The little monkey inside my head that's constantly chirping and giving me the running commentary of my life. That's a good one.
I remember hearing, I was watching the Avicii documentary,
Yes.
and Chris Martin was saying, I can't remember what song it was, but he heard an Avicii song, and he was like, I know I really like something is when I'm instantly jealous. Like, I'm like, turn it off because it's so good, it's not mine. And I'm paraphrasing it, something like that. And I so know that. And then he's like, then of course I'm like, turn it back on, that's amazing.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I so know that feeling. Sometimes something is so good, you just want to squash it because you're like, oh God, I wish that was mine. God, I'm annoyed. That's so good.
I know. It's hard. It's hard. There are some people that are just like, where did you think of that? How did you think that up? How did you think to come up with LED backdrops that change every second, and then lights that change every second, and what made you think of that? Like, yes, I'm gonna speed up my workflow so fast that I'm going to do a 30-minute, half an hour, 45-minute shoot in 1 minute, how?
Efficiencies.
Like brutal. How do you compete with that even, you don't compete. You just say, we're not worthy, So,
Yeah, and so I don't know that gentleman's work, but I would hazard a guess, because I'm from seeing from afar, and certainly I have that with other people's work. And when you're saying it, I'm like, because it's the process. And we always talk, like when we talk to graduates about entering the industry, I'm like, don't come at me with ideas. And when I say, why did you pick that? Say, because it's cool. I thought it looked cool. And you can think that, and that could be the reason, but tell me another story, like stitch it into a strategy, especially if it's in front of like it wouldn't be, but in front of a client, or it's a strategy piece, like stitch it in, and make it come from somewhere. And that's that process. And sometimes, sometimes pink is just cool. It's the right color, that end. you've got to work it in, so that everyone feels like you got this.
Yes.
It's not just
Yes.
plucking it out.
Yeah.
But yeah, like listening to you talk about the gentleman with the LEDs, like I can just feel there's been 1,000 smashed screens before he got to that killer 60
Ah, just
seconds.
amazing. Like, but even just to think up, like, when I saw that, I was like, oh my gosh, no one in Australia is doing this. I would like to do this. So the process of finding LEDs was just hard enough as it is. They are mega expensive.
Mm.
And then even just like thinking up backdrops. His are quite abstract, whereas I just went into AI and I was like, make me a backdrop of like a cement wall with this, blah, 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 So and definitely the abstract ones work a lot better. Certain colors work a lot better. Even just working out on my end, like, how do I work out the lighting process? Like how will I make it different for every photo? So the massive, massive process. Yeah. So his process is genius. Mine was just like looking at that and going, well, how do I interpret that for myself and make that work for me? And yeah, it's amazing. Some people are just amazing.
Yeah, kudos.
Genius.
So are there parts of the industry, when you started out and you mentioned like how you started out is just jumping both feet in, and now you're
Yes.
16 years fast forward of that moment. Are there parts of the industry that are different than you imagined it was going to be?
I definitely didn't ever think that I would have AI culling software, although I'm super grateful for it. Like AI is definitely changing the face of things. In the most recent, I didn't watch the whole talk, but Photoshop released a bunch of TED Talks or whatever they do, like demonstrations of the new features of Photoshops, and it's actually nuts. Like one of the videos that really stood out to me was they had a pumpkin, like a Halloween carved pumpkin, and you could take a torch. So it was obviously a photo of a pumpkin, and you could take a torch and move this torch around to change the light source of in the photo,
Mm,
including to inside the pumpkin so that it looked like it's. And I
hmm.
looked at all the comments on that post, and I think as wow as people were of the technology, most people were like, you are going to take away jobs from people who use your software. So
Yeah,
it's interesting.
wouldn't be the first time.
No, that's right. I definitely think also that there will be a lot more in terms of video, uh, like AI rendering in video. I spoke to
Hmm.
someone yesterday. A friend of theirs is a commercial photographer, did an entire brand shoot just AI, didn't even pick up his camera once. So
Mm.
that's mildly terrifying, but also in terms of event land, which is where I hang out a lot now, I feel like that will still be a thing. I don't know if AI can take that one just yet. I could be wrong,
No
but
way.
yeah,
No, I think as far as one way is the AI pendulum's going to swing is I absolutely believe like people will discover for the first time and or rediscover physicality, and
yes,
physicality gives you a dopamine hit. Like, online
yes,
can give you a micro dopamine hit, but the risk and adventurousness of being out with actual human beings in real
yes,
life
absolutely, absolutely.
is, yeah, it's that.
Yeah.
And so I suspect we're going to pendulum swing both ways.
I was speaking to an HR person recently, and she was saying that they actively look for spelling mistakes in
Hmm.
resumes now because then they know the human has written it, not AI. So, I mean, I love a good chat GPT, but whew,
Yeah. Oh,
yeah,
my background is PR comms and writing, and like I can cope with AI generated images, especially if it's part of a process, a creative process. For sure, it's just another tool, 100%.
yep,
But if you can't be bothered writing your cover letter, like even with a human writes a cover letter, I'm like, oh, please be good. But if a machine has written it, like I don't need to know what the coder interprets as this random person's best case
yeah,
scenario. Like
yeah,
if a human can't be bothered writing it, I probably can't be bothered reading it.
yeah,
That's,
oh, yeah,
yeah, each
oh.
their own. Like some copy is perfunctory, like website copy and stuff. It's like da
You
da da
used to do it,
da,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
usual
yeah.
suspects and
Yeah.
stuff.
I feel like, yeah, it's like how DSLRs took over from film. And then everyone was just banging out all these amazing photos. And now we're all like, give us the film back. It's just so much more. There is something that's like, there's a depth to it that you cannot replicate in a normal DSLR or a mirrorless camera. Like film has a feeling to it, you know?
Amen, sister. Yeah,
Mm.
and as you're saying that, I'm thinking food's exactly the same. We went from slow food to fast food, and of course, there's a slow food
Yes.
movement, and
Movement.
it is much. It's more enjoyable to prepare. It
Yes.
has reverence, like, and of course, fast food has its place. Everyone has its place at the table,
Yes.
but I don't think one can replace the other because all of this speeding up. I'm like, where are we going so fast? Like, where is the fire?
No one is even chasing us. Why are we running? So yeah, it's almost like I really feel like the record player of time is on the high speed. I mean, I know I talk on high speed, but like, you
Yeah.
know, yeah, yeah, exactly.
Is that what you find when you're shooting? Is because is that you're at whether it's commercial gigs like branding gigs and or weddings and events, that it's a monumentous occasion, and so everyone, of course, has their phone ready. Typically, however, they have hired a professional photographer, so they don't need to have their phone up. Are people like a bit? What do I do with myself now? Like normally, I would be manically taking photos.
Oh, it's no, they so it does take a lot for them to let loose if they're not allowed to use their phones. Like, but everyone is there with their phones, and if they're not taking, if they have been told at the wedding that they are not allowed to take photos of the wedding and post it online, so then it's just an afternoon of taking 1,000 selfies, you know. But classic example of this is sometimes I get asked to shoot pre-formals, so people that are going on their formal nights. I'll go to their house before and take photos of them. And I was shooting for a boys' school, so at a boys' house, and all the girls were there, obviously. And I saw them taking selfies of themselves, and I said to them, "Do you girls want me to take a photo of you? Like I'll do it on my cameras." And their response was like, "No, no," because of that instant. They got the instant. They wouldn't. They didn't want to take it on a $7,000 camera, rather on an iPhone that's probably old because it's instant. And I'm just like,
Fools, they don't know what
oh,
they don't know.
no.
You don't even
Honestly,
fools.
the face will look so much better, and the
Yeah.
photographer is got. This is my job, you know. So, yeah.
Trust and believe that is like putting on your supermarket lip gloss while Bobby Brown leans over and says, I've got some lippy if you want to
Yeah.
try.
Yes, exactly, exactly. I just was like, and I was like, okay, I'm just gonna go with it. Okay, ladies, you're good with your iPhone photos. So, yeah. Oh,
Ah, Brill. Now, I understand that earlier this year you were invited by Queensland's biggest photography club to
yay.
speak. And off the back of that, you are launching next year the Inspired Rebels Academy. Can you tell me a
Yes.
bit more about it, please?
Yes, of course. So, yeah, after speaking at this photography club, I never thought of myself as a teacher in any way, but I can talk like Donkey, you know, from Shrek. That's me fully. And also just the like helping people as well. One lady said to me, she was an elderly lady, and she said to me, I wish I heard this like 50 years ago. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So just to be able to help people, I thought about launching a course that I would actually, Secret Squirrel, use as almost like a little ecosystem in my own business. So not only helping people grow in their own photography, but if I can train up little people like me, then I can use them in my own business and have more pixel punks running around. So that's the aim of the game because I am getting so busy and I can only be in one place at one time, and I have lots of clients that need more, and yeah. So that's the long-term aim, but just to get a little squad of rebels to start creating and pushing boundaries and changing the norm, I guess.
absolutely. And hiding in plain sight while you're
That's
doing it.
right. Yeah, that's
So,
right. Yeah, that's right. The
one of the
ninja.
perks. Yeah, exactly. Being the inspired rebel. Well, the course sounds amazing. So if anyone wants to get on the waiting list, they can visit Dee's website at www.pixelpunk.me or .me,
Yes.
or you can reach out to her or follow her obviously on Insta, which is at Pixelpunk Pictures, which
Yes.
underscores in between the words.
Great.
And we'll have all the details in the show notes, of course. And thank you so much for your time, Dee. I super appreciate it.
Pleasure. Pleasure. Thanks for having me.